Okay, let's talk factors influencing growth. So there are several factors on how organisms grow. These can be determined by inside factors or internal factors, such as genetics or hormones, or it can occur outside the organism, such as conditions in the environment, access to resources, and the response to stimuli. Speaking of response to stimuli, something that we already went over is the definition of a stimulus and a response. The stimulus is the conditions in an environment that can cause a response, and the response is that reaction to a stimulus. So for this picture right here, the stimulus would be the growth lamp, and the response would be the plant growing towards the light. So for plants, their responses are controlled by hormones that affect the growth and the development. So there's hormones that are making this plant grow towards the light. So a tropism is a plant's growth response toward or away from a stimulus. So there are positive tropisms, which are towards a stimulus, and a negative tropism, which is away from a stimulus. And these stimuli can be touch, gravity, light, or even the change of weather or seasons. So let's look at an example of positive phototropism, which is a tropism towards light, or a plant growing towards the light. So as you can see, no matter where the light went, the plant will grow towards that light. So at first it was over on the left, and the plant was growing towards the left. And then it moved to the right, and the plant moved to or grew to the right. Okay, and then there is negative tropism, which is away from a stimulus. And a good example of this is how plants respond to gravity. So let's take a look. So no matter how many times that person has flipped the pot to make the sprouts grow down, these plants will not. They will grow against gravity. So that's a negative tropism, against gravity. Since gravity is going down, the plant leaves are going up. Okay. So now let's talk seasonal change. So flowers blooming in the spring and leaves changing color in the fall are all because of seasonal change, triggering tropism in plants. So many plants prepare to go into dormancy in the fall. We've also talked about this during our photosynthesis lesson. And these plants lose their chlorophyll because they feel colder weather and shorter days coming. So they decide to stop making chlorophyll to save their energy. Growth and activity stops, and this helps plants survive freezing temperatures and lack of liquid water. So external conditions. Plants will reach a maximum size that's normal for their species unless there are not enough resources they need. So these resources can be sunlight, nutrient-rich soil, and water. And competition for these resources, like nutrients, may mean few plants get their needed nutrients. So, for instance, if I pot 100 seeds in a little baby pot, not all of them can grow because there's not enough nutrients in that little pot. Okay? As you can see on this picture, that's exactly what's happening. There's competition between these two plants. There's not enough nutrients for the both of them. Okay? And like plants, access to resources and exposure to diseases and parasites can affect the growth and development in animals as well. These can be space or nutrients. So in terms of space, give the example of a goldfish. A goldfish in the wild can grow to about 10 centimeters long, but in a small bowl, it's only going to grow to about 2 or 3 centimeters. This is because there's not enough space in that small bowl or the resource being space, there's not enough space for that animal to grow to its proper size. Okay. There's also internal factors like we talked about, which is genes and hormones. The genes from parents can affect how an organism grows and develops. So, for example, we all have different genes, and all of us are different heights. So, one person could have a different set of genes that affects their height. So, maybe someone is shorter than me or you. And then hormones also influence the growth and development. For example, there's more testosterone in male lions, which makes them larger than the female lions. So lastly, let's talk about embryo development. So a growing offspring after fertilization can develop inside or outside a mother's body. So an embryo can develop inside an egg that is laid outside a parent's body. So many fish, reptiles, birds, and invertebrates can lay eggs. And the egg provides the nutrients for the developing embryo in which it needs to develop. Then an embryo can develop inside a mother's body in placental mammals, which is us. Okay? Nutrients and gases are exchanged between the embryo and the mother through an organ called the placenta, which is shown right here. Okay, so you can see the food and oxygen are being transferred through the placenta by the mother. So waste goes out and food and oxygen goes into the placenta. And the embryo develops until the body system can function on their own. So some animals, when they are first born, can look like smaller versions of adults. And some undergo metamorphosis, which is considered a major body change. So metamorphosis, major body change. Okay, so looking at this life cycle, frogs begin their life cycle as fertilized eggs in water. And then after a few days, tadpoles come out of the eggs and begin swimming. Over time, tadpoles develop into adult frogs. So a tadpole and an adult frog do not look the same. So you could say this frog went through metamorphosis.